Hey, what's up guys, it's your boy Crunch Time back with another video. So I've been wanting to make this video for a little while now guys, and I've been putting it off a bit. I've had my general predictions and expectations set for the 76ers ever since I saw them add Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Dwight Howard, and also get rid of Al Horford and his terrible contract. But nevertheless, I wanted to wait until preseason started so I could, kind of watch what Philly would be doing this season, see a bit of what they were about. Now, obviously, it's a preseason game. Teams aren't going to play their stars crazy minutes, even though Philly gave Ben Simmons a solid 26 minutes in their first preseason game against the Celtics. But, preseason is really just a time for stars to get warmed up and ready for the season, for teams to gain chemistry, and for rookies to get a feel for the league, and for bench players and players who maybe aren't in the rotation to prove why they should be getting minutes in the rotation. So, needless to say, I didn't expect to be getting the full 2020-21 Philadelphia 76ers experience just watching one preseason game, but what I did see I liked quite a bit, and it got me really excited for Philly's season, and I think Philly fans should be pretty excited too. So let's talk about what exactly I think the 76ers did right in the offseason, and what exactly my expectations for the 76ers are heading into this season. So the only word that I can really use to describe the Philadelphia 76ers 2020 offseason is confusing, and not in a good way. First, they lost Jimmy Butler in free agency. Now, at the time, this reflected worse on Jimmy Butler, more so than it did the 76ers, because you got to remember, Jimmy was made out to be a locker room cancer, made out to look like no one really wanted him because of his off-court issues. Like, in the span of 3 years, he'd been on, 4 teams: Chicago, Minnesota, Philly, and then the Heat. But as it turns out, Jimmy was everything the 76ers really needed this year, save for the three-point shooting. He was the closer that they could have used, the shot creator they could have used, an extra defender they could have used, the leader they could have used, and I want to emphasize the leader part particularly, because the 76ers really lacked that dog mentality they needed to get things done on the road, and it showed because their record away from home this season was 10-24, while their home record was 29-2. Bro, I'm sorry, but that's terrible, man. Ultimately, the lack of home court advantage might have contributed to them getting swept in the first round by the Celtics this year. Obviously, they were missing Simmons, but as evidenced by the discrepancy between their home and away records, they probably wouldn't have been swept at the very least had they had some home court advantage. But if they had Jimmy there to give them that mindset to set a precedent for the rest of the team, I think they could have taken the Celtics to 6 or 7 games even without Ben Simmons. Another huge mistake the Sixers made last season was that they lost JJ Redick in free agency. They really offered this man a 3-year, $20 million contract, man. That's just disrespectful. You do the math. That's a little more than $6.5 million per year. Meanwhile, the Pelicans signed him for 2 years, $26 million. They basically doubled how much the Sixers were offering him. Literally, one of the most important things you need on a team that's built around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, two players that really don't have a three-point jumper at all, is three-point shooting. So how are they really going to lowball one of the best shooters in the league, man? It just didn't make sense. And then on top of that, they really signed this man Tobias Harris to a max contract. And you could really kind of tell that this was a panic signing more than anything else, because they were just about to lose mad players, right? Either way, it really messed up their cap space, man. So they have Tobias Harris, right? Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Let me remind you, 3 players that aren't the best three-point shooters and also big men, essentially. I know Ben Simmons is also a point guard, but he played point guard and power forward for most of his life. So, he's kind of a big man. So you have these 3, right? So who do they go and sign? Al Horford. Not only that, but they maxed this man out. What are you doing? All that money for a power forward who's old as dirt, bro. He played like it too, man. He just hasn't played well at all. So going into the 2019-20 season, I already knew it wasn't going to end well. And it didn't, obviously. They were a pretty underwhelming 6th seed and got swept in the first round. The best thing to really come from the 76ers season this last year was the emergence of my boy, Shake Milton, man. I'm playing. Not really. But for real though, not much came of Philly's season. However, they absolutely turned it around this offseason. First, they fired Brett Brown, who really, he just had it coming, man. Let's be honest, it was way overdue. Replacing him with Doc Rivers, who no matter how many shortcomings he has, no matter how many 3-1 leads he's blown, and no matter how much credit he can really take for his championship as the assistant coach of the Celtics, he is still, at the end of the day, a very good coach with championship experience, who most definitely is an upgrade from Brett Brown, and a step in the right direction for the 76ers organization. Philly also got rid of Al Horford's terrible contract and was able to replace him with Danny Green. Granted, they had to throw in a couple first-round picks there, but those most likely won't be worth much because the Sixers will probably be a pretty good team for the next 5 years or so. And so finally, Philly has the 3-and-D guy that they've so desperately needed these past couple of seasons in Danny Green. And I know Danny Green has become the butt of a lot of jokes, and a lot of jokes after last year's playoffs, but he's still a very solid player who does what he does very well. On top of that, they picked up Seth Curry in a trade involving Josh Richardson and a second-round pick. Obviously, Seth Curry brings elite shooting to the team, given that he is one of the best three-point shooters of all time, percentage-wise. The last big-name addition they've made to their roster this offseason is Dwight Howard, who is a very, very good replacement for Al Horford and is one of the best backup centers in the league right now. Really, this offseason, the 76ers took major dubs, so when the season starts, the Sixers will probably be running a lineup of Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid, which is a very, very solid lineup, a very, very good lineup, probably like a top 5, top 7 starting lineup in the league. First of all, this lineup on defense will be disgusting, man. My goodness, Ben Simmons was just on the first all-defensive team last season. Danny Green is a very, very solid defender, as well as Tobias Harris. Then Joel Embiid, well, he's Joel Embiid, man. He's one of the premier defensive big men in the league. Obviously, the weak link on defense is Seth Curry, but for what he offers on the offensive end, which is shooting and a bit of playmaking, I think the 76ers will be more than willing to run him out there and try to hide him on defense as best as they possibly can. However, if they do want to go with an ultra defensive lineup, they can replace Seth Curry with Matisse Thybulle, who in his rookie season last year was already one of the better guard defenders in the league, and he's only gotten better since then. So Philly's got a really, really strong starting lineup, and they've got some really, really solid bench pieces with Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, Dwight Howard, and also Tyrese Maxey, who they picked up in the draft with the 21st pick, and man, was that a steal. Maxey had a very, very solid preseason game yesterday, dropping 8 points, 1 rebound, and 3 assists in 12 minutes. Again, I know it's preseason, but either way, I think Maxey at 21st was an absolute steal. So overall, the 76ers have put together a very, very solid team over the course of this one off season. So what are my predictions for them? Well, this might seem outlandish, I know, but I really think that the 76ers almost have the best chances of making it out of the East, even pushing the Lakers in the finals to 6 games. And it's the Lakers because I presume that the Lakers are making it back to the finals. I don't really think there's much discussion to be had about that. I say that the Sixers can do this because looking at the other contenders in the East from last year, I think a few of the teams above the Sixers got worse or stayed the same. The Bucks, Nets, and Heat got better, and I think the Sixers are better right now than the Bucks, especially when speaking about the playoffs and when you can really just build a wall for Giannis and everything slows down and Giannis becomes less effective. Granted, he's still Giannis, but let's be honest, he's had his shortcomings in the playoffs. Then the Nets have an equal or slightly better chance of making the finals than the Sixers, in my opinion. The Heat got slightly better with the addition of Avery Bradley, but they also lost Jay Crowder, who was a pretty underrated piece for them, but they're still probably on the same level as the Sixers. If not, then slightly worse than them. The Raptors, who were the 2 seed last year, only got worse after they lost Ibaka and Gasol, their big man tandem. And the Pacers, well, they were the 4 seed and basically sat on their hands the entire offseason. Victor Oladipo, there have been so many trade rumors around him. They're probably not going to trade him, but I just don't know how that's going to work out. And then finally, the Celtics, who swept the Sixers in the first round, lost Gordon Hayward for absolutely nothing, man. But their young stars will probably take another step this year, so they'll still probably be pretty solid. However, all the games they played against the Sixers in the first round, except for Game 2, were relatively close, especially considering they didn't have Ben Simmons. So with how much better the 76ers have gotten, and the Celtics staying relatively the same, and then with the Sixers also getting Ben Simmons back, I think the Sixers will be a better team than the Celtics this year. And those were the only teams with higher seeds than the Sixers last season, save for the Nets, but they didn't have KD, and Kyrie was injured for most of the season, so they'll almost definitely be moving up in the rankings. So the way I see this, it's a 5-way race between the Sixers, Nets, Heat, Bucks, and maybe the Celtics. For the reasons I just stated, I think that the Sixers will probably be better than both the Bucks and the Celtics, and they'll probably be able to slightly edge out the Heat if they meet them in the playoffs. A team I haven't mentioned yet that could possibly surprise a few teams is the Atlanta Hawks. But while they also got a lot better in free agency, I just don't really think the Hawks will be able to take down the Sixers. So for me, I think the only team that'll be able to stop them will be the Nets. But I see that being a very, very competitive series, probably going to like 6 or 7 games. So at the end of the day, man, Philly fans, y'all really have a lot to look forward to and a lot to get excited about headed into this season, because maybe, just maybe, trusting the process will finally pay off. Unless Ben Simmons gets traded for James Harden, but let's not talk about that right now. Anyways, that's all I've got for y'all today, man. Let me know what y'all think about this. Do you think the 76ers are contenders or pretenders? Don't forget to like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want more of this kind of content. We're trying to hit 50 subs by the end of the year, which is only a couple weeks away, so a subscription would definitely be appreciated. Other than that, guys, hope y'all have a great day. It's been your boy Crunch Time, and I'll see you next time. Peace.